So we're doing Gaming Week, and for all the people who, are in gaming culture, you understand the different memes going around, the different stuff going around. This quote may sound familiar to you. The phrase "it's just a game" is such a weak mindset. You are okay with what happened. Losing. Imperfection of a craft. When you stop getting angry after losing, you've lost twice. There's always something to learn and always room for improvement. Never settle. So that's the infamous ninja quote where everyone's saying, hey, why do you get so mad? It's just a game, right? And then he's like, no, I'm going to be mad because I want to get better. And the reason this quote, this tweet, like blew up, is because it's so ridiculous, right? Like, it is just a game. You don't have to be mad and breaking stuff just because it's a game. Like, it's just a game. It's not going to take something away from you. Just because you lose, you don't actually lose anything. You play a game, and maybe you win, maybe you lose, and if you lose, you try again. That's the whole point. And so this quote just seems ridiculous because the whole point of video games is that you can try again. But this quote is also almost right. Because if you take what he's saying, it sounds pretty good. Like the last part of the quote, just there's always something to learn and always room for improvement, never settle. Well, that's good. That's a good mindset to have. That's a good thing to believe, that you can always do better, and trying to reach that level of perfection where you couldn't improve anymore. Well, you'll never get there, so there's always room to improve. There's always ways to critique yourself and what you're doing and try to get to that next level. And for that piece, this quote makes perfect sense, right? And this is something that everyone should really be practicing, that whenever you interact with someone, you got to critique yourself a little bit and say, hey, what could I have done better? How did I fail to communicate, right? Whenever you try to do something, make something, well, if you make something and it doesn't turn out the way you want, well, you try to analyze and say, hey, how did it go wrong? Where did I mess up, right? So that way next time you can do it better. And so that's good. That's definitely good. And so if one part of it sounds good and one part of it sounds ridiculous, then why does it sound good and why does it sound ridiculous? And this is exactly what we're doing. We are analyzing failure. Just this time, it's not my failure, it's not your failure. It's Ninja's failure, right? He wrote down a tweet, and there's something that seems ridiculous to everyone, like almost universally. But at the same time, you look at that last part of the quote, he's not wrong. You should improve, you should grow, and try again. But why is it so ridiculous? Why is it so funny? And so, let's learn and improve and never settle and tear this apart a little bit. So, there's a few different aspects of this quote, right? There's a statement, it's just a game is a weak mindset. Then there's the statement, don't be okay with losing because it's an imperfection of a craft, right? You can do better, so don't be okay with losing. And then the third statement is, when you stop getting angry after losing, you've lost twice. And then there's the fourth thing, which is, there's always something to learn, always room for improvement, never settle. So let's remove number 3 and see how it sounds. So if we just remove that third statement, that third sentence, then we are left with the phrase, it's just a game, is such a weak mindset. You are okay with what happened, losing, imperfection of a craft. There's always something to learn and always room for improvement. Never settle. Now that sounds less ridiculous. So why is number 3 the most ridiculous sentence in there? Like, number 1 is an audacious statement, sure, but it's not inherently ridiculous. 2 makes perfect sense, and 4 makes perfect sense. So why is number 3 so ridiculous? And what's ridiculous about it is, if you aren't angry, then you lost twice. So now, what would you be angry at? Well, losing a game, right? Now, what kind of person gets angry just because they lose a game? A kid, right? A child. Well, that's why this is so ridiculous. It's because it's a grown man saying, if you don't act like a child, then you've lost twice. If you don't throw your tantrum, then you've lost twice. That's what sounds so ridiculous about this quote. Is he has this audacious statement, and the supporting statement is, if you don't act like a baby, you lost twice. You have a weak mindset unless you act like a baby, like a toddler, throwing a tantrum anytime you lose. That's the thing. That's why it sounds so funny, so ridiculous. But at the same time, anger is an emotion, and our emotions have purpose for them, right? There's a reason we get angry. It's not just because, hey, we want to act like a baby and throw a tantrum. It's because throwing a tantrum gets you something. It's that being angry does something to you that could be beneficial. Like, yeah, sure. When the toddler throws a tantrum, maybe they get what they want, right? But adults don't get angry that way. Adults know no one cares about you. No one cares about you and what you want and what you care about. And so throwing a tantrum doesn't get you anything. So when you're angry, you don't throw a tantrum as an adult. You don't do that. You don't act that way. So when you're angry as an adult, what do? Well, you fix the problem. If there's a big mess all over your kitchen and you're like, I have guests coming over in like half an hour, and now instead of me getting ready, I have to do all these dishes. And then you get pissed off, right? Especially if you didn't make them, right? That would get you angry. Well, how do you use that anger? You can either use that anger to like yell at a roommate or something who might have made the mess. But that's not going to be productive. That's not going to solve any problems. And so the adult thing to do isn't to not be angry. but rather to use that anger to motivate you to solve the problem. And so you do those dishes even though you didn't make them, because you're the one who has guests coming over. You're the one who cares. And so you have to fix the problem. And then it's with playing a game, I get angry too sometimes, right? I think everyone gets angry when they lose, especially if it was unfair. And so, what do you do about it? Well, that anger motivates you to solve the problem, because you don't like what happened. That's why you're angry, right? And so that anger is this motivating emotion that says, I don't like what happened. I don't want it to happen again. And so, what are we going to do about it? And so, there are many ways to solve it. One is you can stop playing, right? If you don't like the game, stop playing. You're mad. It makes you mad. You don't want to be mad, so stop playing the game. Two is your anger could say, hey, I'm angry at my performance, right? That if only I had done this, then I wouldn't have failed. I wouldn't have lost. And so, that can motivate you and say, hey, well, let me learn. Let me do that next time. Next time I won't make that mistake. And then you try again. Maybe you don't make that same mistake. So you can have an anger response that says, just stop playing. And then you can have an anger response of, let's keep playing and improve. And then there's this response of, and this is what happens when people get too angry, right? Is that they get angry at the game so much that they break the game. That they punch through their computer screen, or they break their TV or whatever, right? And they just break their computer or break their console because, they're just mad. Now that, in a weird way, does solve the problem. If you can't play the game, you can't get mad at the game, right? And so these are the three responses to anger. Is either to fight it and just completely destroy your computer, your TV, whatever, to run away from it, right? Just quit playing, don't play anymore. Or to improve. And so, when Ninja says, when you stop getting angry after losing, you've lost twice, that's obviously not what he means. Because he's not saying, oh, if you don't punch through your computer screen, you've lost twice, right? He's not saying if you get so frustrated with the game you stop playing and never play it again, you've lost twice. Those are not the kind of anger he's talking about. Obviously. Because if you don't get angry, well then you don't have that motivating emotion for those three responses. But he doesn't want all three responses. He doesn't want someone. He doesn't want to be so angry that he just destroys his computer and can't play again. He doesn't want to be so angry that he just never plays the game ever again. He wants to be just angry enough that that lesson of what went wrong sticks in his head. So that way, next time, there's always something to learn and always room for improvement, and he never settles. That's what he's going after when he uses the word angry. And this exactly applies to life in general, right? Well, obviously it does. It's about us. It's about our emotions, our response. And so, when things get bad, and those bad things make you mad, what do? You're gonna get angry from life when things feel unfair, when things go wrong. And so the question is, what do you do about them? One answer is to run away from them. And honestly, that might be the answer. Another answer is to improve yourself. So that way, next time you're in that situation, that bad thing doesn't happen to you. And the third thing is just to burn the whole world down, to destroy whatever was bad. And so, when we talk about controlling emotions, right? The real problem is not the emotion. The real problem is your response to the emotion. And the bad thing to do with anger is when you get so angry that you just destroy stuff. Whether it's your stuff, someone else's stuff, even if it's hurting another person. When you get angry and you destroy, that's bad. When you get angry and that motivates you to create more, to improve yourself and do better next time, that's good. And when anger motivates you to just leave the situation, well, that's removing a negative, which is good. Because if you just remove the bad thing, problem solved. But if you destroy the thing responsible for what's bad, well, that's not necessarily good. Yes, the bad thing won't happen again, but now your computer's broke. Now you hurt someone. Right? Whatever it is. And so, when you're controlling your emotions, right? It's not so much that you can't have emotions, right? And that's partially what Ninja is saying here. Is if you just swallow your emotions and you don't get mad, well, then you don't get the benefit of that anger motivating you and pushing you towards being better. It's a statement within the statement. His underlying belief is that anger is a positive. It could be a positive. It could make you run away from something, which may be good or bad. It may make you destroy something, which is usually bad. But then it may make you rethink your actions and try again and try to do better, which is usually good. So, in Ninja's mind, anger only ever motivates him to do the good thing. And if he ever destroys something because he's angry, well, it's a cost you have to pay, right? And so, when we think about this quote, when you stop getting angry after losing, you've lost twice. It's that giving up means you lose twice. And if he were to stop getting angry, that wouldn't mean he would stop breaking stuff, right? That's not the thing he's worried about. It's not that he would stop getting so frustrated that he has to take a break. He's not worried about that either. That's not his response. The thing he's worried about losing is his motivation to try again. That's what his anger is for him. That's what his anger does for him. And when you stop being motivated to try again, then you do lose twice. And so, as funny and ridiculous as the quote sounds, in a way, it's true. And so, when you think, this thing doesn't matter, well, if it really does matter, then it's a weak mindset, right? If you just give up on something because it's hard, that's a weak mindset. Because then you're just okay with being a failure. You're okay with never trying again. And when you give up, you've lost twice. There's always something to learn, and always room for improvement. Never settle. And so, there you go. When you say it that way, it doesn't sound nearly as ridiculous. It makes a lot of sense. The issue is, it's still just a game, right? Except, games teach you about how to live life. And the concern here in this statement is if the lesson you learn from games is how to quit, then you're learning the wrong lesson. Games are supposed to teach you about the world, about people, so that way you can be the best you can be. You can grow and improve and excel and become more than you were yesterday. That's what games are for. That's what games do. But if the lesson you learn is how to give up, well, then you lose. Because you're going to apply that same lesson to the real world and say, well, this person didn't understand what I meant, so I guess they'll just think I'm a jerk forever. I'm not going to explain myself. I'll just apologize. Even though what I said was, not really that offensive, not really that harmful. In fact, I think it's probably right and good and just to say that. Well, no, I'll just give up. Giving up is better. It's easier. That way I don't have to be mad all the time. And that's something that people do all too often. Is when things get hard, they just give up. But even if it makes you mad, games teach you that when you don't give up, you are rewarded. And that's a good lesson. So, don't have such a weak mindset, right? Don't think just because it's hard, it's not worth doing. Well, maybe it is worth doing. Maybe it's worth trying again. Because maybe that pushback you're feeling means that it might just be working. Maybe when people judge you and make you feel like, hey, I'm a failure. Well, maybe that's because you're being pushed on. And that push on you, it could make you mad. Are you going to run away from it? Are you just going to randomly destroy stuff? Or are you going to be motivated to move past it, to grow, to excel? Hopefully you choose to excel. Hopefully you choose to try again and do it better. And improve each and every day, each and every time, just by trying again. There's nothing wrong with failure. There's nothing wrong with losing. What's truly wrong is when you let feeling like a failure destroy your spirit. What's really wrong is when you give up because you were beaten. Because when you give up, you lose twice. It's like the saying goes, quitters never win, and winners never quit. So don't quit.